started in three. Wait. We're gonna get started in three, two. Oh, hold on. Wait. All right, we're getting started in three, two, one. Hey, everybody, welcome back to Simple Songwriting Breakdown, not the podcast. I'm going to try to make a little differentiation between those two. So, this is the breakdown for episode 17. I'm going to try a little bit of a different thing today. I'm actually going to try to record video for the first time for a specific reason, actually. We are going to be talking about Tender Surrender by Steve Vai. Now, what's interesting is I know we did Darude and we said we were going to do the main thing for the last episode was supposed to be Sandstorm by Darude, but the truth is I feel like we talked about Tender Surrender and Strobe much more. I do feel like that episode was a little loopy though. Both Aubrey and I were extremely tired, and I don't think we got into it as well as I would have liked, but that's why I thought when I came to do this breakdown, I was like, I do wish that we could have talked more about like melodies and what good melodies are and what they sound like, and maybe why I would prefer like instrumental music with complex good melodies as opposed to something that's purely just vibe. Not saying that vibe is not important, but if you were to ask me which I think is the better song, I do think Tender Surrender is a better song versus Strobe. But not necessarily that there isn't a place for vibe music and songs like Strobe, but I think that Tender Surrender is the more impressive composition, and that's kind of but I also think that I come at it from a different angle because I'm a guitarist, because I have a different perspective on it than I think most people do. There was even a time where I used to be able to play all of Tender Surrender, and so I just thought it'd be a maybe a more unique song for me to break down and explain as opposed to something like um Darude, which, don't get me wrong, Darude or Sandstorm, I mean, Sandstorm is great. There's tons of, great songwriting techniques, but I think everybody knows it and everyone kind of can, while there's a few things that I could point out that maybe the average listener hasn't heard, I think that this might be a little more unique. Like I said, I don't think the average listener has heard um, Tender Surrender or really even Steve Vai in general. So I thought it'd just be kind of interesting to hear a guitarist's take on this song. Um, for that reason, I actually have the tablature here. I can get it pulled up right now so you can see it. Hold on, still new at this. So there we go. We've got the tab pulled up here. I think that you'll have to ignore the ads and stuff. It's on Ultimate Guitar, which I love Ultimate Guitar. I've used it for years, but man, they can be very frustrating. The site could be very frustrating. But we've got all the tabs here, so I can actually explain some of the stuff that's happening on the guitar end to y'all. You're not. There's a good chance that most people won't be able to follow along 100%. But again, I think this is a unique opportunity to be able to hear from a guitar. Like, again, I'm not trying to just to my own horn. I'm an accomplished guitarist, and maybe hear why this song in particular is a standout song in the guitar community. So we'll come back to the tabs in a second. Let's just give a little bit of background on this song though. So this song was off of Steve Vai's album Alien Love Secrets. It's an EP called Alien Love Secrets. It was released in March of 1995. Uh, for those of you who don't know, Steve Vai he is widely known as he's one of the most respected guitarists of all time. He is unbelievably skilled unbelievably creative and artistic. Um, the things that he is capable of doing on the guitar really it really is just incredible. He's one of the greats. Um, he's played with many very famous artists. He's played with Sammy Hagar. If you ever heard "I Can't Drive 55," that's him playing guitar there. He's played with Frank Zappa. He is he did the guitar parts in the Halo 2 theme. Aubrey and I mentioned that, but if you listen to Halo 2 and you hear the guitar riffs and stuff, that's Steve Vai. He's again, I don't think that he is like this global artist. Well, he is a global artist, but I don't think that he has this massive, uh let me put it this way. He's not like a Madonna or a Michael Jackson or one of the huge artists of the world, but the people who know him have an unbelievable amount of respect for him. So yeah, I think he's definitely somebody that you should pay attention to if you're interested in guitar. I've said to many times throughout my life, I think that he embodies he is one of the guitarists that embodies everything that a guitarist should be. I'd put him up there with like an Eddie Van Halen type. I think Eddie Van Halen might be. I think Eddie Van Halen is in the conversation for greatest guitarist of all time, and I think Steve Vai is in that conversation as well. Just the way that he can not only capture so many complex emotions and sounds on the guitar and like feelings, but the technical abilities, his ability to do things that are so unbelievably technical and impressive at the same time while creating just incredible alien melodies. It really is it really is something else. So if you ever want to hear something truly unique and weird, just go listen to a Steve Vai album. Um, yeah, he's great. Definitely somebody to explore if you're interested in if you want to find unique music. So with that said, let's talk about Tender Surrender a little bit. So this is it's funny because Aubrey was saying maybe this wasn't one of his more popular songs. I didn't realize I wasn't 100% sure, but I knew that it definitely was. I knew so Steve Vai's most popular song undoubtedly is For the Love of God. That song is I I don't use the word lightly. I think it's a guitar masterpiece. I think that that song is absolutely incredible. A master class in guitar playing. It's just a beautiful piece of music, um, in every way. It really is just amazing. Tender Surrender though is a but so real quick. For the Love of God, that song is a very epic symphonic piece. It's long. It's like 6 minutes long, and there's all these movements and flow to it that are just, it's just amazing. Tender Surrender is a little bit different though. Tender Surrender is very, it's very personal. It's very, soft. Well, I say soft, but it's this kind of like it's not like this epic grand masterpiece. It's meant to be. Well, so first, our Tender Surrender is the closing song off of the EP Alien Love Secrets. So the idea is it is the theme is alien love secrets. So when you think about that with a song like Tender Surrender, the song is basically about sex and love making. So let's just start there. So it goes through, the builds up. It's over the song. It builds up. There's a massive climax that's just crazy, and then it softens back down again. Again, you get the metaphor. So the way he does that. So with that said, it's not this epic, grand, classical, pie in the sky, heavenly piece. The way that For the Love of God is, it is definitely like a more in your face, soft, but also very heavy, but a little more like human, if that makes sense. Um, I remember the first time I heard this song, it kind of took me by surprise. I was young. I think I would have been in eighth or ninth grade, and this song kind of blew my mind because it just showed me a perspective of the guitar that I don't think I had ever heard before. And so what I mean specifically is that he transitions so seamlessly from the softer, quieter parts. There's a slow build up, and then you go into this solo, and it's like you almost don't even realize that you're there, because it or how you almost don't realize how drastic the change is, because of how smooth he is about getting there. And I'll point out the moments when he actually changes his guitar tone and his sound, and what he does playing wise to, make those changes. But really, it's extremely impressive. It's extremely impressive, both from a playing standpoint and a compositional standpoint, but also from like a sound, a tonal change, the way his guitar sounds, and the way that he, you know, changes his style as well. It's the whole composition to create this build up, climax, and then drop back down. It really is a master class in guitar playing. It's his second most popular song. Well, now it's his third most popular song on Spotify. His most popular song is Ego Death, which is a Polyphia song that he featured on. Which, go check out Ego Death as well. Ego Death is extremely unique. It's one of my favorite songs from the past few years. It is also instrumental guitar music, but very, very unique, and super interesting take on what you can do with the guitar. So go check out Ego Death as well. But yeah, so let's kind of dig into let's get into this song, because I really like this song, and I'm excited to talk about it. I'm gonna put the tab up on the screen, and we're gonna just I'm gonna kind of play along with the tab here. So let's get started. So off the bat, we've got this drum hit, like bow, which kind of sets up a like a 70s funk style vibe, which is pretty applicable to what we're doing. I mean, when you think about like, love making, and this is gonna be a little like corny, so bear with me. I understand, like, we're talking about, ooh, smooth jazz to go with the, the sexy tune or whatever, but that is what the song is generally about. It's meant to be a kind of sexy song. And so I'm gonna talk about that just a little bit. Uh, this 70s style funk is very much associated with that. When you think about like sexy, sensual music, the 70s is what comes to mind. Uh, you know, Pop artists and R&B artists, they're the ones who sort of, I mean, they essentially created that genre in the 70s. This idea of like, oh baby, I want you, that's like a joke now, but it comes from somewhere, and for good reason. It sounds nice. It's very pleasing to the ear. It's smooth, but it's not necessarily, how would you phrase it, like wuss music. It's not wussy, wimpy music. But it's still smooth, and has character to it. So he's embracing that. Remember, this was written in 1995. This isn't like some 70s track. So he's playing off of that a little bit to get that vibe that he wants, the vibe. So here, let's listen to that again, and just listen how oops, sorry. Listen to how he just comes right in. Can't get this. I'm using the Spotify mini player instead of the full Spotify app. All right, here we go. And then the drums come in very light. The bass comes in. There's almost, they're almost not even doing much. They're not really doing much. Just, very soft, very calm music. Let's let it float for a little bit. Nothing crazy really happening there. So let's look at the tab here. So I know y'all won't be able to read. Well, actually, let me explain how to read this. So these are the 6 strings of the guitar. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, each of these lines. And then the numbers notate the number of the fret that you hit. So this is how you read this stuff. I'm mainly showing this here so that way I can actually look at it and tell y'all what's going on. So the main thing I want to note is these little, you see these two dots? These are like staccato notes. So he's going bounce, 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 bounce. And actually, little fun thing here, I can actually play this and you should be able to hear it. Let me just make sure I've got my settings right. Let's see if this works. It'd be really cool if it does. Yeah, there we go. All right, so that sounds super goofy, I know, but guess what? This is how guitarists actually learn. So this is an app that allows you to see the notes and then play them and play along with it. So yeah, these two dots are staccato notes. So he's starting off again. What we're doing is we're starting off with this like pow, bum, 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 bum. So that I think one of the reasons why that works is because like when you think of a sexy or a sensual song or like these R&B songs, it's not meant to just be soft. Like it's meant to have a little oomph to it, right? But so that's why let's kick it off with that oomph. But then we slowly slide into the into more smooth playing. And so you can see that here with these long lines. So these long lines are actually guitar slides. So that means that you keep your finger on the string and you just slide down to the next note. And so you can hear that sound, you know, when he actually plays. So you hear that buena. So how much smoother that sounds than the first few notes. Again, let's go back. First few notes very very staccato. Da 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 na da da na na na. That da that's this right here, the 5 going up to the 7. Very smooth. Da-na. So we settle into that groove there with that slide. It's actually pretty cool. Um, One thing that I want to note about what he's actually playing, he's doing what are called octaves. So I've explained this before, but in case you don't know, an octave is essentially the same note, just higher. So you have like an A note. There's many different A notes that you can hit. So you would have like A down, like a lower A, like do, and then you would go up an octave and it's do, 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 do. So those would both be A notes, right? I can't play the notes specifically. So the reason I'm pointing out these octaves is because this whole first section is all octaves. And he's playing them with a very soft, clean tone. And what that does is so the reason I'm pointing out he's playing octaves is to simultaneously point out that he's not playing single notes. He's not playing the single notes. And we'll get to the part when he makes that transition because it's really important to building the song up. The big point is an octave sounds much more ethereal. It sounds much more full and so, and in this case softer because you can actually hit, you know, you're hitting two different strings. One of them is a little lower, one of them is the higher string. So it just has this full soft sound. And you can hear it. You can hear that he's hitting two notes with each of these. You know, listen for the lower one here. It's going to sound like do, 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 do. Do, do. It's underneath. Listen past that high note because obviously you can hear the high note, the do, 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 do. But listen for the lower one. Do, 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 do. It's hard to hear because he's perfectly in tune, and so the two notes blend together really well. But you can hear how that sounds very full without being overbearing because he's not playing a full chord, he's just playing octaves, the same note. So we get into here. He's got a few single notes here. This isn't the part that I'm talking about, though. There's a part where he specifically stops playing octaves. That's going to be the first, in my opinion, that's the first real build-up section. So I'm going to point out that there are some non-octave notes, and that would be, if you're looking at the screen, the 5, 7, 5 here. But there's a specific section later where he switches over to single notes. So let's keep going. So now that we've got the, you know, bum, 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 so we settle into the We settle into the groove here, and he starts to play these nice little licks. And that would be that 5-7-5 right here. So let's listen on the guitar player. So one thing that I want to note is Steve Vai can basically play anything. He can play just about anything that he wants. And so one thing that is really great about especially just this beginning, and I know we're taking a lot of time on this intro. We'll go a little faster once it like gets going, but he has restraint, and you can hear how there's such a restrained, like he's not really going. Look, how can I point this out? When you have somebody who is as good as Steve Vai, it's very impressive for him to be able to compositionally restrain himself and not just go ballistic all the time. And so you have, I'm looking specifically at this section right here where he goes 5 to 10 to 7, and it's just like a da na no. Doom doom doom. Like that's really cool. Very smooth. And I think there's even a little pop here. And they bring it back to what they did at the beginning. Here, I'll play it on the actual track. So we get back to that pop. So again, all of this is very nice and pleasant sounding. It's not necessarily easy to play. Well, here's the thing. It is easy to play the notes. It is very difficult to play this well. And that's because, again, the tone that he's got, this very soft, clean tone, it's picking up everything that he's doing on the strings. It's picking up his, how hard is he picking the strings? How, when he does a hammer on or a pull off, or when he switches strings, does it sound heavy, or does it sound, soft and light? You can hear that especially on this 5-7-5 section right here. This is like a quick little hammer on pull off. Like you can hear how like janky that sounds on the guitar player or on the tab because it's just looking at the notes. But listen to how he actually plays it. By picking one of the notes very heavily and then the other ones very softly, you get this da 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 da, and you can have there's all those dynamics in between the notes. So it's very essentially he's capable of having, by applying different amounts of pressure with the pick, he is capable of expressing these different sounds, even though the notes that he's playing, he can go beyond the notes essentially. I guess that's the point I'm trying to say. You have the notes, but then you have how do you actually play them, and what do they sound like? And that's the big difference here. He's a good enough player to be able to take something that sounds pretty, okay, and that's what this is right here. He's able to take that and just totally make it sound smooth, and hear how much better that sounds. So yeah, like the point is that it's, especially on an instrument like guitar where you can actually have your hands on the strings and you can control the sound of the strings, there's so much you can do with just the way that you play rather than the notes. Now, to be fair, the notes sound great. He picked great notes. They're really cool to listen to. But by playing them really well and playing them in an interesting way, by applying more pressure with the pick, by doing a little hammer-on pull-off, which is that, if you don't know, a hammer-on, you know what? I can't even explain that. It'll take too long. Let's just stick with what I'm saying. He's using techniques and his mastery of, with his hands to be able to accentuate certain notes versus others and really make this part sound great. So let's listen one more time. And hear how soft that sounds, like dun, boom. It's let me just explain it like this. It's hard enough to just be able to play anything on guitar, but then to be able to have that much control, and you can hear it. You can hear when one of the notes sounds a little more intense than the other note. Listen again. Just again, it's one of those things. If you don't know about like the J curve, for example, like the J curve is when you start off, it's like confidence versus skill, right? So when you start off, you're very confident. When you have no skill, you're very confident, and then as you get more skill or knowledge, you become less confident because you realize how much you don't know. But then over time, it's able to go back up. That's what a J curve is if you don't know. So it looks like a J because you start at like, let's just say you start at like a 3 in confidence, and then once you get more skill, you will go down to a 1 because you realize how much you don't know. And then when you get more skill or more information, you actually get you curve back up to like a 6 or a 7 in terms of confidence, right? And that's a J curve. And so I feel like it's like this was that song, or one of the songs to me, that made me hit the J curve to a degree with the with guitar playing, because I know to an average listener it's like, yeah, that he's just playing the guitar, right? It's kind of like John Mayer. Like John Mayer is such a great guitarist, and I feel like nobody really like the guitar. I don't think people really appreciate how good he is at guitar because he's not like shredding, right? Where at least on this song, Steve Vai definitely does shred. So it's like that. Like if you don't know how guitar works, these little licks here that I like, just these first few seconds. I mean, we're only 17 seconds in right now, but like these first few seconds, there's just like, yeah, he's just playing guitar. Like that's how the guitar sounds. But there's so much technicality and you know a skill there at work beyond just, oh, he's playing, he's a good player. It's like, no, this is like masterful playing, but he makes it sound easy, he makes it sound smooth and effortless, and that's actually going to be something that continues throughout the whole song. So let's keep going. um so he's got this little lick here that I like right before that. So again, he's kind of building so he goes back and forth between these octave sections, which are very soft and pleasing, to maybe like more single string melodies a little bit. Let's listen real quick. That right there, that's so smooth, and listen to the notes and how they sound on the guitar tab. It's like da 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 dum ba da da dum ba. It's like, but then you compare that to what he actually does. Such a difference. Anyway, so then we go back, we kind of repeat. So we have our sort of motif here, this bow 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 bow. So he's going to kind of use that. He does that twice here, and then he uses that to set up these little sections where he can do leads, and then like we just listened to the so let's listen. He's doing the repeat here, but he goes up this time. Let's listen. So yeah, same motif, same little, he's repeating the section so that the listener actually has something to grab onto and be familiar with. So if you're not like a guitar maestro, but you just enjoy this type of music, you can actually go, this might be the part where you sing, and then the rest of the parts are where you're just kind of relaxing and vibing too. But if you're familiar enough with the song to be able to go bow 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 bow, like that can be the part that you sing along with. Let's listen to what he does here, because I think it sounds really nice. That right there is so good. I think I started just a little too early though. Listen. Let's take it back a little further. Here we go. It's so clean. Okay, so what he's doing there, you can hear that right here on the tab. Let's play it here. So the tab can't even really portray that. You can see it with this little squiggle line here. Essentially, this is what's called a tremolo. A tremolo means that you switch back and forth between two notes very, very quickly. In this case, the 0 means the open string. So there is no, he's not fretting. So this would be like you just don't put your hand on the guitar and you just strum the open string, but he's actually doing a tremolo between the open string and the second fret. So you're just pressing up and down on the second fret and releasing it back to the open string. But what he's able to do here, and it's so smooth, is that he actually does it so softly at first that the guitar doesn't even pick the sound up, but then he slowly increases the intensity so that the volume of that, like it almost sounds like like a fade in, because he's doing it so softly while still doing it quickly, which is difficult. But then he picks the intensity up, which allows it to come in. Listen for that one more time. You hear that? But that's, again, that is so impressive. That takes an incredible amount of control to be able to go that fast, but also that, not even, I don't even want to say just softly. It's going from soft to intense to the point where it can actually like sound like that fade in sound, because he starts off so soft that the guitar pickup doesn't even pick up the sound. In case y'all don't know, the way that guitars work is, down in the body of the guitar, you have what's called pickups, and pickups essentially are capable of scanning the vibration of the strings and converting it into an electronic signal. So in order to get the string to have sound, it must be vibrating. So then for him to be plucking the string with his hand, but do it so soft that the guitar pickup doesn't pick up on it, and then to slowly increase the intensity so that the guitar pickup does start to pick up on it, it takes an incredible amount of control. That's all I'll say. Let's listen one more time to that. You can hear how he picks the intensity up so much that the string almost sounds like it pops at the end. It's so cool. Yeah, really great stuff. And that's the type of thing, again, you could just miss that. You could just totally gloss over that, totally miss it if you're not a guitarist. And so I understand, I get why maybe Steve Vai isn't as popular, and why these types of songs aren't as popular amongst people, but I can't understress how skillful this is, and how impressive it is from a guitar standpoint, and to me how good it sounds. It just sounds great to listen to. It's so interesting to listen to. So let's keep going. Oh my god, that, I love that. So that's this right here. Again, I'm just assuming that you can at least see the tab, but take a look. So it's even hard for the tab to portray that. So what he's doing there is he's still playing. So remember, these octaves, when you see this here, this means that he's playing two strings at once. And what he's doing is he's bending both of the strings at the same time, which is, first off, very difficult to do. It's hard enough for people to bend one string well, but he's able to do it with two strings, and he makes it sound so smooth. Listen for this little thing here. Right here, I'm gonna press play, but listen right here. Love that. Absolutely. I love that. It's so cool. It sounds so great. And it's funny because it doesn't even sound like he picks it. It's so smooth and fluid. Yeah, and then what makes it even better is he does that bend and then slides down to this, like he's on the 9th and 11th fret here. So he does the bend and then he slides down to the 7th and the 9th fret. So it actually does this like da na na no, but it's da no, and it just sounds so cool. Let's listen again. Oh man. And then immediately jumps into this down at the banana, a little more funk guitar type stuff here. Uh so that transition as well, like going from the smooth like again, that just showcases how hitting the strings in different ways can get you such different sounds, because it's not like he's changing his guitar tone or anything. This is all just in his hands, in the playing. So let's listen again. All right, so now we have the first structural change. So we start off with the bounce, 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 and we repeated that twice. So then we come into this new melody. I want to point out that if you're a guitarist, like a solo guitarist like this, there is a huge pressure to keep things interesting. Like it is your responsibility as the guitarist to keep the song interesting. And I think this is where a lot of solo guitarists fall off. Funnily enough, I actually personally don't like listening to a lot of instrumental guitar music. Or maybe I should say I'm very selective about it. There's a lot of artists that I can't stand listening to. I think they're boring and they don't know how to write songs right, and they don't understand that as an instrumental artist, you have to keep it interesting because you don't have the luxury of lyrics and vocals and a story, right? Well, you can have a story, but it'll be an instrumental story. And so you have to really be careful. But a lot of guitarists will do this kind of instrumental copy paste thing where it's like, okay, cool, I've got my chorus, I can just copy and paste it. It's like, no, you have to have more. You have to have changes to your chorus. You have to do little things to keep it, to keep it going, right? So this song is a great example of that, where it's constantly shifting and evolving. And so this is the first one. So let's listen to this. Let's listen to this little melody here. So that right there, so that whole little section, that's the first switch up. Now this, so I wouldn't say that this is as interesting as the first part, but it is a very nice natural movement. It's almost like we're gonna get a little bit softer chord wise, and so let's listen to it on the player on the tab. That right there, that's a really special chord. The 3550. This is what's called a suspended second chord. It is very much known as like an ethereal chord. And so that's why you have this really open, you know, peaceful sound to it, right? It's very nice. And he lets that chord ring out as well. In fact, I should point out, this is the first full, like, the first time we've actually let a full chord ring out. Other than this, we've only had the octaves ringing out. And again, remember, octaves are the same note, just higher or lower. There's emotion there, but it's not going to have as much emotion as like a major or a minor chord, right? Like major and minor chords have multiple notes in them, which are what allow them to portray more complex emotions than just a single note, right? And what I mean by like a single note being held out, even if it's just octaves, versus a full chord being held out. So it's very cool that he put this here, because it does offer a little change. It offers a little bit of a more complex chord structure to, open the song up a little bit. We've gotten past the beginning. We're kind of getting into it. So let's listen to this again. And you get, oh, sorry, real quick. You can even hear that little drum roll. Like we're building up because we're about to open the song up a little bit. And then one more thing, the bass actually hits a really nice note. If you can listen in the background for the bass, there's like I think it hits do, like a higher note. Boom, boom, boom. You can hear hear that bass in the background. So yeah, he's opened it up a little bit, and now we can he starts to play around a little bit more. After that, let's listen. So again, we're following this theme of like the stops and the starts. So we start, build up, and then pause, and then we kind of come back down and relax for a bit, and then we build up. So we're moving up and down, building tension, releasing tension, but very subtly, very slowly. But the song is still building. I will say there's not much to say about these little sections here that I haven't already said. It's more of just melodies that are really nice and pleasing to the ear. So let's listen again to this, the second section. He does it again, a very, that similar, that's the new motif versus the so let's listen to this new motif again. Sorry, back a little further. Right there. So yeah, again, just relaxing. He's going back to the octaves there. So remember, everything's just octaves. It sounds really nice. And then he has this little lick here, which is another example of like of him playing these notes in a way that sounds good. So listen to how it sounds on the guitar tab. Right, pretty janky. Completely different sound once you actually have the pressure and the tone. And maybe I should clarify this. I know that the guitar tab sounds goofy and robotic, and most people would assume it is because it's just it's just taking the numbers and doing that. Listen, what I would request is that you listen past just the way that it sounds. Like what I mean is like the tone, right? The tone of those notes, and listen to the notes themselves. So in this case, like, I know it sounds like dun, 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 but like listen to how the notes sound versus like if you just think about like just the pure notes da 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 versus how he plays it, which is much more subtle and has much more character. Sorry, I know that was a weird transition. Let's keep going because we're going into the second time he plays that motif here. So now we have a really interesting change. The drums actually change here, and it's this 5-7-5 chord right here. Let's take a listen. So if you see this arrow pointing up, that means that you actually pick these three notes very slowly in this order, and then he keeps playing these extra notes here. So he gets this like brush sound. Dun 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 dun. Instead of blam bum bum, it's da da dun dun dun. Listen again. Right here. So this chord is very interesting. This is a 7th chord. So the suspended 2nd chord here that we had before, sorry. So that right there, how that sounds really ethereal and peaceful. The suspended 7th, or the 7th chord, which is what he plays here, that's actually a groovy chord. So we're starting to pick up a little bit. The 7th chord is notoriously has like a very positive, groovy sound to it, and it's the minor 7th, which gives it a little more of like oomph. It's less of like happy groovy and more of like smooth groovy. So listen to it again, and you can feel that. You can feel that like groove. Let's listen to it on the song, not the player. So that sounds so smooth, right? And the drums make that little change too. You start to hear them hit the cymbal. And so to accent that, he goes into this next little groovy riff. So he's hitting full chords here with and then he goes into a very like, I wouldn't call it funky, but it's kind of a unique sound. Just listen to what he does here. That little thing right there, super interesting. So what he's essentially doing is he's sliding into these notes kind of from, it's called like a slide from nowhere. And the guitar tab will portray it as like 7 and 10 going to 8 and 5. Here. Hear how it's going like da-dum, da-dum, because that's kind of the best that it can do. But what he's really doing is kind of strumming the strings as he slides into that 8 and 5, which gives it, this sound that's like meow, meow, bum, 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 bum. And it's very smooth, but it's also kind of weird and a little unorthodox. But we're getting a little bit, we're starting to branch out a little. I think that seventh chord is when things really start to pick up a little bit. So let's listen to that again. Here. So nice, super smooth. We're getting back to that like sexy vibe after the ethereal vibe of the first of the chord before. And yeah, that, very interesting melody. you know it sounds both jammed and fluid, like he was just jamming it, but it also is so like, everything that he does, he composes. Like Steve Vai is a composer. He's composed symphonies. He's composed, crazy insane guitar parts. He notates and does sheet music for everything that he writes. So this isn't just random. He composed this. And so it's just cool. It's great hearing something like that. And then he does this soft little like dun 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 dun. Sorry, we missed it. Da, 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 da. Yeah. Listen right here. You'll hear these harmonics. Dun, 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 dun. Really nice. So now we start to build though. Now we actually start to get. We're gonna build because remember earlier I said that we were gonna get out of the single string section, or out of the octaves, and get into the part where he's only playing single notes. We're getting there. So he's going to start building now. Here, we're good. Dun 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 dun. Now he's starting to pick up his playing a little bit. Really smooth. Oh, so he does that again. That like listen. So he does that bend again with both strings. But this time it's a little more intense because it's about to start to pick up. Here, let's listen to all that just one more time. Ah, love that. But now here we go. We're gonna do a nice little drop down, back into that pop. So listen to how he changes it this time. So now we've got the drums change over again to a little bit more like intense beat. But I mean, you heard that. You heard how different that sounds. So a few things here. So he does those chords to drop back down and then hit that pop. What's interesting about that little having those little pops, and what I mean by the pop is like what you heard at the beginning of the song, you know, boom, bum 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 bum. So he uses those little pops to sort of build the tension throughout the song and to keep moving it upward. Um, you know, we just had a really pleasing, softer, ethereal section, followed by that jazz chord, that seventh chord that I mentioned, and then he's still building it up. You can see the tab here. All of these two notes, they're just octaves of each other, constantly building up, and then you've got here the big, you know, kind of drop down to a degree. So everything stops, which gives him the perfect spot. Now, he's not going full distortion here. This is what's important. There is a very, very slight increase in his tone, slight change in his tone. There might not even be a change. He could just be playing a little bit more intensely with his pickups on his guitar. So you can actually control the sensitivity of your pickup on your guitar. If you turn the sensitivity down, you have to play harder to get the pickups to to sound stronger. But if you play soft, it's only going to pick up, it's going to send a softer tone to your amp, right? Or a softer signal to your amp. But if you turn the sensitivity further up, it picks up every little sound and it sends a I don't know how to describe it other than like a larger, more beefy, full signal to your amp, which is what makes it sound have more distortion. So you can actually control the intensity of your sound with the guitar pickup. So he could have just turned the guitar pickup intensity up just a little bit here. So he might not have even changed his tone. I think he did though. I think he probably kicked on like a little overdrive pedal, but either way, it doesn't sound like a drastic shift. It's actually a pretty smooth change. Let's listen to it one more time. We're way behind. Yeah, there's definitely, I think there is a tonal change there. I know most people would sit there and say, well, he definitely sounds different, but I'm not totally convinced that it was a pedal or an amp change. I think he could have done that with the guitar, but maybe not. Either way, the sound is definitely different. It's definitely a little more intense. And so you know how I mentioned earlier, like when you play octaves, like octaves can sound very full, and if you play them with distortion, that's actually what most pop punk is. Like if you listen to just generally any pop punk song and you hear like da na 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 na, it's usually octaves being played. So they can sound like, you know, they can sound really full without being, you know, full chords that have major and minor tonality to them. Uh, there's something to be said about that. Like you would almost think, oh well, he's playing two different strings, so shouldn't that sound more intense? But the thing is when you get to playing one string, you can actually play more complicated notes. You can play notes faster, and you can really emphasize like one note and a, you know, bends and things like that. You're not as limited by what you can do. So for example, like earlier, whenever I was complimenting how he was bending both strings on the nine, like for example here on the 9 and the 11, when he did that, here, let me see if it'll play. That like that's really hard to do when you're doing it, you know, bending both strings. It's way easier to just bend one string, and so that's what you get here. Boy, that's one string bend. And what's funny is that that you just heard at the end, he plays that so softly that you can almost barely hear it. Listen to it here. There it was. You could, like I said, you could barely hear it. Super funny. But again, he still does it, and it's so soft, and you could probably miss that if you weren't a guitarist, right? Um, but yeah, so he's definitely changed his sound some way or one way or another. he's also really picking these strings. Well, he is picking them harder. And when I say picking, just so y'all understand, I'm talking about the hand that he uses, his right hand, which he's using to pluck the strings, and he's plucking them with the pick. And so you can control the intensity of that. So you can pluck it really hard or you can pluck it really soft. So he's plucking it very, very hard, but in a way that gives it this kind of pop. So let's listen to that one more time. Here. Just great, just awesome sounding. Love that. So then we get this next little section. So essentially from here on, he starts to solo, and we're going to talk a little bit about, I'm not going to break down everything that he does, but I'm going to try to point out the stuff that's really cool. So this next section, you can see it here on the tab. He does what's called a rake, which is where he mutes the first three strings and kind of plucks through them to get to the fourth string and play this 12 note. And so let's listen to what that sounds like. It's going to sound like when you pluck a muted string, it's like check it out. Hear that? That first note, super fluid, super cool. Check it out again. And that, his vibrato too, the right here on this 12. Real quick, he's also doing a little what's called a chromatic run, which means he's just doing like, he's going up a half step. Dun, 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 dun. So that's like not necessarily in the scale that he's playing. Chromatic stuff just gives things a funky sound if you put them right. Like it's very funky, bluesy. That's why that specific it just sounds like a classic blues riff. And then his vibrato is great. So that's where he actually uses his finger to, he's playing a single note, but he's moving his fretting hand to give it most people know what vibrato is from singing, but you can do it on guitar by just, vibratoing the string. So listen to, it's going to go and listen to that last note and how it moves. Just great. It just sounds so awesome. So yeah, yeah. Sorry, I'm looking at this real quick. I'm trying to see. This might be, no, never mind. Okay, it's not what I thought. I was thinking of a theory thing. Anyway, so then he goes into this really great blues lick here, which ends with this chord. So here, let's check it out. Yeah, we've heard that. All right, here we go. Right here. So let me kind of explain dynamically what he's doing now. He is starting to play much harder, but still with soft stuff in between. So before he was playing kind of softer, but then he'd have those like the structural buildups where it'd be like, bum, 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 and then we'd build back up, or like so those little was where he'd kind of build the intensity up to that and maybe still keep playing intense. And I'm specifically talking about like these staccato notes here, but then he'd come back down into softer sections, and then almost all of this would be soft until we build back into the and that'd be this right here. So what I'm saying is that he was playing much more dynamically, much more intense at first, or he was playing intensely less. That's what I meant, not first. He was playing intensely less, and then he was playing softer more. So it was like maybe 20% intense, 80% soft, but he'd make these little builds up into the intense sections and then come back down. Then as we moved through that softer section, we slowly got more intense. Now he's kind of doing the opposite. He's plucking the strings very heavily, but still throwing in these softer notes in there. So he hasn't, we're building, that's how he's building the tension essentially, is by playing harder more often than playing soft. So let's listen just a little bit more. You hear that? Here, listen real quick. That da-no-no, the blant-dun-dun, right here. He's playing that really heavy, and then the da-do really soft. So the reason I point that out, it's like he might start the lick off soft, but then he brings it back to he makes it more intense and then brings it back to soft. But then again, he's keeping you on your toes here because he's about to do this little bend section, which is going to be intense. So okay, that's what makes me think that he is doing it with his guitar pickup and not with his amp or with extra distortion, because you hear how he starts to have distortion there. He starts to pick it up. Listen to how the note goes. Don't listen to just the note. Listen to the tone of the note. You can hear how it starts to have more distortion, and then I believe that he is turning his guitar sensitivity back down simultaneously while playing to make it to keep it smooth. He's not trying to, again, he's teasing us. He's being kind of a tease. He's still building up. He's not we're not at the we're not climaxing yet. See that? Like, that's not a separate recording. That's not a different amp or anything. Let's listen one more time, and I'll play it a little sooner. Right there. See, it just starts to build, and then like, nope. So I think he's doing that with the guitar because of how smooth that is. Just when I talk about the sensitivity, that's what the knobs on the guitar are. So he's just turning that knob up a little bit while he plays those notes, and then he brings it right back down so that, nope, not yet. I'm not giving you my full guitar tone yet. Right there. You can almost hear when he turns the knob up, because you can hear the note get more intense, and then hear when he turns it back down. Let's listen one more time. I also just want to note, because I think it's cool, he's still using those, the pauses to escalate the song. So, the last pause was when he did this lick here. Earlier, and now he's actually starting to turn the distortion up on the second one. So let's listen one more time, and listen for, you can almost hear when he turns that knob. Right there, back down. Super cool. So what he's done there is he's essentially teased the distortion. So he's going to come back down and be very soft here, but we're about to pop off, and that's essentially what he's signaling. And so structurally or compositionally, he's just given us a little bit of leads and some solo stuff, but now I think he's going to move into a part that he had to have actually, like, when I talk about like being a composer, next section is definitely going to be a composed part, because it's got the specific purpose of building into the solo, and that's really where we're moving to. So take a listen. He's gonna give us some soft little licks here, but then we're gonna start to get into the actual build up. So that's all nice, all of that's really cool, smooth, but now we get into this. Here, everything's building. Oh, we're going. So we're full maximum build, right? At least in terms of like soft 70s smooth jazz. And now here is where, if you're looking at the tab, this is where we can actually switch over to guitar number 2, because this is where things escalate, and he actually has a different tone, and you'll hear it on the guitar tablature too. But let's listen to Steve Vai do it first. Hold on. Here we go. We're going. I'm pausing just a little. All right. So this is not a tease. We are out of teasing world. This is the real deal now. So this is where it transitions into essentially a rock song. The drum beat is a rock beat. There is still like that synth going on in the background to a degree, but he is turned the distortion on full blast, and now it's time to get real. And this is where he does some of the most I mean, everything up to this point again has been incredibly impressive guitar wise. It's extraordinarily difficult, maybe even more difficult to do some of the stuff that he was doing at the beginning of this song. But if there was any idea that he was just this smooth jazz player, it's about to that's about to get debunked. He is an incredible shredder. So let's listen to this. Let's listen to this first little lick here, because the bend that he did there during the pause, that's just a build-up. But this is where he starts to shred. So all of that, super melodic, really kind of finicky. He's not going all out yet. We're going to get there, but it's still very impressive doing everything that he's doing. You can look at these melodies here on the tab. It's like... So all of that stuff, I can't explain everything that's going on guitar-wise. It would just take too long, but he is just abusing the strings right now. I mean, he has so much control, and like these little things, like this little section here, like what he's actually doing, you can see how like the 11 has this arrow above it pointing up. He's bending the string and then picking it at the top and then bringing it back down and picking it at the bottom. So he's actually moving the string up and down and picking as he does it at the perfect part. Let's try to find that spot again, because I think that's just a cool little standout moment. Like that's super hard to do. Again, all about control. I actually, now that I'm listening to it, I don't think he quite has full distortion yet. I think he's about to get it right now. But we've definitely kicked off like, okay, it's getting real. Let's listen. Here we go. There we go. That's where he hits this long 9 note here. And I actually think he might have switched his pickup. So in case y'all don't know, guitars have 2 pickups. They've got the rhythm pickup and the bridge pickup. Yes, I think those are what they're called. They're rhythm and treble, but they have lots of different names. Essentially, one of them sounds more full and bassy, and the other pickup sounds more trebly and sharp. The trebly one is typically the more harsher, heavier pickup, whereas the rhythm pickup is smoother and used more for like smooth sounding solos. So what's interesting here is I think he might switch his pickup during this this part where he's hitting the same notes, the like right here. So maybe, but yeah, what he does here is he hits these notes that sound super like just like full energy. But then, so what he's about to do is really cool, because he's just given a whole lot of energy into that, but then he's about to go into the first like real shred section, and you can see it on the tab. You can see where all these notes are about to fire off, but this is actually really smooth what he does. It sounds really smooth the way he plays it. So check it out. He might have a wah pedal actually, which switches it from bass to treble on a gradient. That's what a wah pedal is it goes from bass to treble. So it's like wah, you know, if the end, if more trebly sound is like nya 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 and the bass sound is like blah blah blah, it's like imagine switching between those two on the gradient. That's what a wah pedal what does, and that's why it sounds like a wah. It's like wow. If you ever wondered. So I think he actually does turn the wah pedal on there. I don't know if I've ever 100% noticed that. No, I don't think he does. Maybe not. Here's the thing. So Steve Vai is very famous for his use of the wah pedal in order to give his sound and his playing more character. So he could have done it. He's very selective, or he's very smart about where to put it to not make it sound like a gimmick. So regardless, this little shred section here sounds great. It doesn't sound too over the top. He's not like full on shredding, but it sounds really nice, really smooth. The point I want to make is that he's not going all out just yet, but he is starting to shred. And so having a little more like smoother sounding shred section just to get people like again, we're building. It's always building. We keep building in this song. And so getting that smoother shred gets us into the shred without like just blowing our minds right off the bat. So let's listen to it again. So awesome. So that's a pinch harmonic that he did there. I don't know if I could explain a pinch harmonic in this show. Google search it; it might make more sense. But essentially, it's an example of how much he has so much control that he can be shredding and then like right in the middle of the shred hit those really smooth pinch harmonics. Really cool stuff. Listen to that one more time. The pinch harmonics are those little squeals that you're hearing. Right there. And right there as well. So yeah, it's a super awesome shred section. Yeah, it just kicks ass. There's nothing really too, you know, theoretically crazy about this. It's a pretty normal looking, you know, shred line. Just I don't know what the tab is doing. That is completely wrong rhythmically. So don't pay attention to that. But yeah. But then, you know, that gnarly like it sounds super cool at the very end of the shred section. And then before you get too comfortable though, he hits these bends. So now we get we're actually getting to what is probably my favorite part in the whole solo, really. But what's funny here is that he's shredding, like he's starting to shred, he's going all out, but he gets one of those pauses, which throughout the song has actually been used to elevate the tension, but he actually, for the first time here, kind of comes down and descends. So there was the pause there, but the drums keep playing through it, and he descends with these little two note sections. Down, da down, da do, da do. So here, check that out again, because we hit the pause, which is what we've been hitting throughout the song. So he's actually, you know, bringing it back down a little bit, and I think that's kind of cool because he's letting us, you know, settle into the shred to a certain extent. Like, all right, we just went crazy with this gnarly riff. We're really in it now, but let's, you know, it's time to kind of bring it down just a little bit. Well, I say that, but then he's about to go into this riff, and this next part is, okay. Let's think about it holistically. He's about to go into some extremely intense shredding. So before he does that, I think he's trying to get some more smooth shredding in there first. And this next lick is one of the smoothest guitar riffs I've ever heard. This was one of those parts that absolutely blew my mind when I was younger. I still am not totally sure how he gets it to sound like this. It's just a testament to his playing, but check it out. That right there. That little thing right there. it sounds like liquid, man. It sounds just awesome. And here it is. And like I can play the notes for you on the tab, but it's not gonna have the same effect. Check it out. Like it just doesn't capture it, you know. It's just not the same. Check it out. Just how smooth that is. It's so good. So yeah, again, that's coming right after this de-escalation. So what he's doing now, like, let me just again credit him and explain why this is so cool. He's like almost moment by moment, you know, escalating, de-escalating, escalating, de-escalating, you know, go really intense with these high bends and then de-escalate down, 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 and then build it back up with, you know, and then this next lick is, so it's like, you know, we're smooth, like we're moment by moment he's going up and down and up and down. It's all just kind of going crazy now. So let's take it back just a little bit. So we're, you know, de-escalating. So that's super cool. What he's doing there is he's got that high note that he's going back to. So he's using his pinky actually on that, you know, to hit that 20 on the highest string. So yeah, do that. And then this is like the best sounding note of the whole song. He just hits this note with so much power. Check it out. Oh, I played it. Like just that is such a killer note, man. Check it out again. All right, so okay, so a few things happening here. Let's just summarize what we've had. So we've had the first really big shred section, which was fairly smooth, but it had this kind of powerful, you know, squealy pinch harmonic end, which then led into these bends here. You know, the bends which build tension, but then led to the pause, which we've been using the pauses to build tension, but he's actually using it to bring things back down again after these high note bends and the smoother shred section from before. So he comes back down and then he builds it right back up with this extremely smooth lick here. There's the high notes, and he did the descending, and now we do the smooth lick, building back up, and then he's keeping the tension while still kind of coming back down by hitting high note, low note, high note, lower note, high note, even lower note. Check it out. And then he brings it right back up super high again. So let's talk about that right there. Ooh. So this, let me play it. So what he's doing there are slides, but he's picking the string extremely hard on those slides, which when you pluck the string a certain way and you almost like, it's called like choking up on the pick. Essentially you hit the string with your pick, but you actually tap the string with your finger at the same time as you pick it in order to get it to kind of sound. It's like you're cutting the vibration off as you're creating the vibration. That's probably the best way I can explain it. And so when you first pluck it like that, you get this like really twangy sound. But then when you slide down, that twang goes away, which creates this really interesting dynamic of that to like a normal sounding note, right? And when you do that fast, that's what you get here. That's what he's doing. And you can see it on the tab here. That's what these little like two notes with the slides between them. Dano, 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 dano. And so listen how it starts off kind of twangy, but then turns into like a normal note. It's going to be lightning fast. So pay attention. Right here. He's just picking the note really high and then sliding it down, and letting it go from like that twang to the smooth. And so it actually gives it like a lot of character and like voicing to it. Like it sounds, again, like it's like expressive. It's very expressive, like a singer or something. But it's just all these little techniques that he does to get it to sound like that. I love sections like that. I love guitar playing that sounds like that. Let's listen one more time. All right, so he's got those slides down. So again, it's like, okay, we go up and then we kind of come back down and then we jump right back up with this really high note bend and then we slide back down really slowly. And now he's going to really build up because we're getting into, again, we're going to keep building. So then he does these little sweep picks. Sweep picks are essentially where you take the string and you brush it across multiple strings in one motion. So in this case, like instead of picking the string, you are essentially just taking the pick and going downward with it and hitting multiple notes. And so it creates this because the strings get higher as you go down. So check it out. Yep. So those are the sweep picks, which again, sweeping is a very, very, very difficult technique, and he's doing it like it's nothing. It's like candy to him. Check it out. That's what he like it's just nothing. Makes it sound so effortless. Check it out one more time. I think it just sounds so good. So every single one of those blah, 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 he's playing 4 separate notes. And you can see here on the tab. But he's just playing them lightning fast because of the sweeps. So all of that, super intense. He's building back up and he hits this super high note. I think it's the highest note of the song so far. And he actually, instead of just, again, he's got the restraint to say, all right, we're hitting the highest note of the song, but we're actually still going to make it sound really nice and smooth. We haven't hit the full-on shred climax yet. So he's still keeping it smooth. There's definitely a wah pedal there. If you ever want, like, that's how Steve Vai uses the wah pedal. Hear how that, like, check that out again. Oh, hold on. Hear that? So not only is he playing all of this, he's actually using his foot to do all this crazy wah stuff. All of this from a compositional standpoint on guitar is insane, by the way. This is so melodic, so fluid. You won't hear a melody like this on any popular song anywhere. No, you won't hear a melody like this on most metal songs, most songs in general. This is so unique. Listen to these notes. So cool. Check it out again. Hold on. Let me take it back. So now he's starting to shred because we're about to. So here's what's about to happen. Is he's kind of been piddling around, like he's been shredding, he's going up and down and doing all this cool stuff, but we still haven't hit the climax. He's jamming, he's doing his thing. This is you can see it on the tab. There's this crazy wah shred section that's about to happen. So hear how it goes like you almost can't even notice the notes. That's what the wah pedal does. On here, let's take it back so you can hear that whole thing. So he brings it back down, he shreds down, and then slowly starts shredding his way up, and then he's going to have these long notes here that are going to build into really what is the beginning of the crazy shred, like the climax of the song. It goes down and then back up right here. So that sounds great. He's going slow. And then this next note, oh my God, this low note sounds so good. Check it out. Oh man. The guitar nerd in me. Bro, just awesome. That's a whammy bar, by the way. Yeah, most people probably know what a whammy bar is from Guitar Hero. It is essentially a bar that controls where the strings are held. So if you bring the bar in, it loosens all of the strings to the point where they're just flopping around on the pickups, which is why they sound so low. So you can actually control the tension of the strings with the whammy bar. So check that out again. Oh my God, that's disgusting. Check it out again. Here, let's listen to that whole phrase. Oh my God. All right, that's enough. That's enough. We're gonna keep going because he's just playing. He's being disgusting now, but we're about to start shredding. So right there, this little section here, this actually isn't as hard as it sounds. So remember what I said earlier about like the 0 is the open string. So he's essentially just taking his finger on and off of the string and hitting these different frets in order to create a melody while still going back to that open string. That's why it's like, you know. So then he goes into this. All right, so hold on. This is like the last real melodic section before like this is the climax here. We're getting into the climax now. So check it out. This is the last like melodic part we're gonna get for a little bit. Now. All right, so that's a combination of the wah pedal, the whammy bar, and hitting like just nutso notes. It sounds so cool. One thing that I will say y'all should do, and I think this kind of helps capture the spirit of this song, go watch the music video. It's actually a really great video. It's just a single take of him playing it, and it's stylized as like a home recording of a live show from the 70s or something. He's got this like really, crazy leather jacket on, and he's just playing like a madman. But that part where he hits that low note, I think he actually like smooths back his hair. He's all cool. Like it's a cool video. Check it out. I think it will help understand the character of this song. But yeah, these crazy notes and sounds that he's making right now, they are the final like build up into the climax. And what's funny is if you actually look at the timestamps on this song, we're at 3 minutes right now. The song is 5 minutes long. We are right around like where a climax should be realistically. So let's check it out. Woo! Yeah, so I just wanted to let that whole section play out. That's all fucking nuts. It's not as hard as it sounds, to be fair, on guitar. It's just he's essentially holding his finger on the 15th fret and then just tapping the 19th and the 17th fret with his pinky and his middle finger. I know it's easy for me to sit here and say, oh, it's not as hard as it sounds, but like it really is not the most challenging thing in the world. But again, he plays it so smoothly and perfectly and with so much character that it really escalates it. And the build up to it too, it doesn't necessarily need to be difficult to just to capture the essence of what he's trying to capture. If I play it on the guitar player, it's probably going to sound as like crap, honestly. Check it out. Yeah, so that's pretty janky. But let's take it back just a little bit and I'll explain just a little more what he's doing. So he's starting off on the 19th, 15th fret, but he's slowly moving down the fretboard, essentially just following the scales and hitting notes. Where it really starts to get cool is when he gets to here, where he's hitting the 3 5s and the 7s. That part right there. Here, take a listen. So yeah, here we go. He's going, sliding down again. Here we go, right here. When I press play again, it'll be the part. What he does here is really cool. He turns on the wah pedal and he actually starts, he's still playing like crazy, but he's actually using his foot to hit the wah pedal on the accent notes in order to give it just this nutso like sound. It's super cool. Check it out. So now what he starts to do there is super cool. He essentially starts building down or shredding downward on the fretboard. Let's see what the guitar tab says. Yeah, I don't even, yeah, that's all just a mess. Check it out though. The way he actually plays it. So yeah, the guitar tab is hilarious. Sorry, I'm kind of laughing at that. That was ridiculous. That's kind of bad. But basically, he starts shredding down the fretboard or down the strings in order to get to the lower sound, and then he basically just takes the whammy bar. And remember, the whammy bar controls the tension of the strings, right? So if you pull the whammy bar up, it makes the strings go higher. That's how you get these like sounds. And if you make it go down, it loosens the string, which is how you get that sound, right? You've probably heard that on like Pantera tracks or Eddie Van Halen tracks and stuff, or Avenged Sevenfold, they do it too. But what he's about to do is basically take the whammy bar and just like jerk it up and down, which is why the strings sound so ridiculous. Listen like right here. That right there, like that's what he's doing. So you can hear him shred down the fretboard. So he's sliding down. Then he brings in the wah pedal to get that wow. And he goes down and then starts crazy whammy bar stuff, right? So just so you understand, like that's what all is going into making that sound as ridiculous as it sounds. It's a combination of the whammy bar, the wah pedal, crazy shredding, moving down the fretboard. It's just great though. The way it pops off and just hits hard. It's super cool. So now he's going to go into these really. He's kind of taking a second to hit these crazy high notes. Again, keeping the tension high, but taking a second from the shredding. That last one, God, the way he just keeps building up the tension on those long notes or on those bends, and then finally exploding into this crazy. That last one really builds into it. Oh, it's so cool. You know, it's. I know the shredding is great, and it's the climax, and I love it. I think it's the perfect way to use these types of shredding techniques. But I love the melodic stuff and those long notes almost more as a shredder. I think it's so much more skillful and tasteful. But you got to still have the shredding. So anyway, him having that little long note pause after the crazy whammy bar, and then going into another shred section, which is what he's about to do. All this is great. He's just keeping the tension high, or keeping the climax going, keeping the tension high. So that was super cool. He hit another little shred technique here where instead of being on one string, he's switching strings now. He's hitting a 19 on the B string. Check it out. And then these are just pentatonic riffs, kind of bluesy pentatonic riffs, just played extremely fast, but it's still pretty cool. He's shredding just in a different way, and it's a little more tasteful, but we're still keeping the energy high. Oh, hold on. Oh man, we're almost there. Hold on. Just bends there, but then he shreds down the fretboard here. All right, so let's take a quick, before we get into this next section, let's take a quick stock of what we've done. So we had like that super low note, right? The bro, oh, sorry, not that. We had the build up notes where he was making like these squeal sounds, which then led into the, this crazy shred section we had back here. Come on, come on. Right here. So then that builds down with the whammy bar and the wah pedal, right? So then we get into the high notes, right? Super cool. So then we get into the second shred section here. Sorry, a little bit before that, right here. Right, that's all super cool. Then we kind of get into this more bluesy but and flavorful shred section to kind of bring it back down a little bit. We come down, and now what we're about to do is this final build up. So we've had all of these crazy sections. He's gone nuts. We get this final little build up. I think it's triplets actually. So check it out. So he's just going up the scale basically, but he slowly starts going up faster right here. Let's hear that whole thing. So now we have this part here is one of the most interesting sections of the song, most interesting little parts from a tonal level. And here, let me just play it so you can hear how awesome this is. And we're back. We're back, baby. No, so unbelievable transition, by the way. Like masterful transition. One of the best transitions I've ever heard in my life. It still sticks with me today. So what's so cool about this transition is how smooth the tonal change is. And I don't, to this day, I'm not 100% sure how he did it. It's a perfect transition back to what we had at the beginning. It's also extremely smart. Remember I talked about how this is like the singing part, right? Like this is the part that you remember, that bow, 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 for him to kind of come back to that point of familiarity and where we were at the beginning of the song. Super smart, because it feels like we've returned back to something that we're comfortable with after all of this crazy intense, shenanigans on the guitar. Just great. But the thing that just blows my mind, listen to how smooth that transition sound wise is. That you can't really, it's almost difficult to determine exactly where the change in tone happens, because it's like every single note is like a step down in terms of the distortion. By the time we get to that, we're back to our original tone. Super, super smooth. Just sounds great. And then coming out of it, I mean, I know I've paused it, but check it out like on its own. Man, just great. So now on the tab, we can actually come back over to our guitar, our first guitar tone, because we are back at it. We are so back, baby. We're getting close. So yeah, we're past the climax, and that was kind of the point of the song, right? Is like, you have your fun, little fun time, etc., and now we're relaxing now. We get to relax for a little bit. So real quick, I want to pause there. It's not the end by any stretch, but none of that is super crazy. It's just kind of an interesting little. He's just jamming, getting everybody kind of relaxed again. But then he does something kind of interesting here. So I've always thought that was a little goofy, but you know what? It's fun. And like it's kind of, it plays to like the fun of this song. Like this isn't, like I said before, this isn't like some epic, whatever. It's, I mean, it's epic shred, but it's not like an epic symphonic piece. It's a fun song at its core, right? And so after all that craziness, to do something like kind of goofy like that, I like it. And again, he's a guitarist. Finding these little ways to add character and like voicing to his music, super cool. So check that out again. And just so you know, that's essentially just the wah pedal. That is a very full sounding wah pedal. Yeah, love that. All right, now here's where I'm going to offer probably my only critique of this song. I actually don't like this section, and I've just got to be honest. I think he overdoes it here. I think it's a little goofy and kind of silly. And it sort of yanks me out of the song, and I've actually never really liked this next little section. I think it's a little too much, but hey, it's what he decided to do. So let's check it out. Sorry, not that. That sounds cool. That right there. So sorry, I was letting that little line play out. So I think that actually sounds really nice. That like it's fun. I'm chilling, but then he does this. Yeah, I that's what I don't really like. I don't know why he decided to do that. I think it kind of, I think one of the coolest things about this song is that there's this really gradual build up, both compositionally and tonally, into this crazy, insane shred section, and then you come back down and you can relax afterwards. And I think that he perfectly captured that. And then to do this kind of goofy little thing at the end, it's a little bit of a dork move, in my opinion. But hey, again, it's what he decided to do. I don't like it. I think that it takes you out of the song. Like it kind of breaks the immersion a little bit. Like we're relaxing, we're having, that was fun. We're relaxing, and then it's like sleeping with somebody, and then they just say some like weird goober thing to you, and you're like, oh, that was weird, But here, check it out again. And then this next section, or this last little bit here, because we're at the end, he's just shaking the whammy bar with the strings very low compressed. That's where you get this like rattling sound. That's the strings rattling against the pickups. I actually really like that. I think that's super cool. I think it's a really cool sound. And then I think we get this like this little synth in the background that's really peaceful. I think it is important to note something maybe I wasn't thinking about is that this is the end of the album. So maybe this is less of a close for Tender Surrender and more of a close for the album as a whole. Uh, Make of that what you will. I don't think that, you should compromise the song to create an end for the album. I think that, the song should stand on its own. If you want to write a song that specifically is meant to be the album closer, that's different. But I don't, if that was, that wah, 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 is meant to be the end of the album called Alien Love Secrets, then put it on a separate track or something. Anyway, the whole point is that we're about to get into this really pleasing synth sound that comes in and then a pop. So check it out. Very nice. Very nice. And I think he actually broke his string there. He purposefully pops the string. Let's listen to that one more time. And that sound of like, that's him releasing the pickup, by the way. So that's the strings actually coming back from being like super taut and like rattly to coming back to normal tension and returning to normal. He's just releasing that whammy bar very slowly. And then yeah, I'm almost certain he pops the string there, um, on purpose, just to get that, bink. And there we have it. That's the end of the song. So yeah, I hope that you were able to follow along a little bit with the tabs. I know this is kind of new for me having a video. It's pretty cool though, and I think it's an interesting way to show off a song like this for people who might not know it. And I hope that hearing that perspective from a guitarist and why this song is very much appreciated in the guitar community at least, maybe gives you a new appreciation for it. There's a lot of things that he does here that are extremely difficult, very complex. Lot of stylistic things happening, a lot of techniques at play. I didn't even really talk about the difference between playing with distortion versus playing clean. You have to. I mentioned during playing clean that if you're playing on a clean channel, like with a softer tone, every single thing that you do on the string is noticeable. So like if you pick it hard, it sounds out. But with distortion, you have a little more leeway, but also you can cover up mistakes with distortion, and he doesn't do that. He doesn't make any mistakes here at all. Is so phenomenally well uh, played and well composed. It just sounds great. So he's got this great mix of like lively energy, so it doesn't sound like robotic. Like when he does the whammy bar squeals, like the wow 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 wow, like that's, you can't really compose that. You just sort of plan to do that, and then you know do what you can to make it sound the best that you can, right? But pulling something like that off in the composition and then immediately jumping into some technical shred section and then implementing the wah pedal halfway through the shred section, and then just all the ups and the downs and the techniques that he uses, it's crazy. And it's very impressive. It's a very, very impressive composition. So hope you all enjoyed that. I really enjoyed talking about it. And I sometimes I think it's fun to break down songs that are like well known. Like I know I've ripped into Katy Perry for the past like month, but my whole thing is like, that can be fun to break down why a song is bad, but I think it's also interesting to take a song that a lot of people might not appreciate or want, or even know about, and show why I think it's a really great song, and maybe give my perspective on it. So hope you enjoyed that, and yeah, I'll see you guys later. Wale!